Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live instant match reaction to Manchester City 3, Everton 0. Everton get absolutely hammered off City. Not that it was ever in much doubt that this was how it was going to pan out. It was just a case of how many. It was actually less than I probably expected, to be honest, but it was still a good performance nonetheless. I've got Paul McAllister with me. We're going to shine a light on the highs and predominantly lows of that game. Paul, your summary of what you've just witnessed in the past 90 minutes?
What we all expected, really. I mean, it's the hope that kills you. You manage to talk yourself in, or at least I do, talk yourself into the possibility that maybe we can go there and maybe we can just put a backs to the walls type performance in and get a sneaky goal and maybe show some really good spirit and great defending, and we can hold out for at least a point. But yeah, none of that happened, did it?
Yeah, of course it didn't.
We didn't defend great. We didn't get a sneaky goal. We didn't. No one particularly stood out for playing well. It just seemed like all the usual suspects just put in what we've come to expect from them, which was just gutless performances, one after another.
Yeah, I think today I saw like individual displays where I thought like they seemed all right at times, I thought, but there was no cohesion. Everyone was just playing as individuals, I thought.
Yeah, there were some who can hold their heads up a lot higher than other people, but I don't look at anyone in that team except maybe Townsend and Gordon. But I maybe look at them and I thought, you know what,
they two sprung to mind for me as well.
Yeah, it's maybe Townsend and Gordon. You could say, you know what, like you left it all out there. You didn't really do anything wrong, but even the players who are typically like and usually come through for us, even they had off days. The likes of Dean, the likes of Alan,
Richarlison as well.
Yeah, Richarlison was really poor. I mean, to be fair to Richarlison, he didn't get any help all day. He got nothing to run onto. He got no one linking up with him. He got just basically long ball after long ball after long ball to go up and challenge for. And he's not a forward player who gets up in the air and gets up close against defenders, is he? But we'll go into individuals a bit more specifically in a minute. But it's just another grim result, and it just leaves everyone feeling just that grim, isn't it? Thinking, what is this season going to end up panning out like?
Well, it's going to look a lot worse now, given that obviously Richarlison, we mentioned, got rattled, got a booking, and is banned for Brentford.
Yeah,
and
silly that.
Damari Gray getting injured is for me the worst thing about today. I think I was always expecting a 3-0 defeat there or thereabouts at the hands of City, but it was the fact that we lost probably our best threat in many a game this season. We've lost him now, I think, for that injury looks as if it could be a month or two at least.
I missed it. What exactly happened? I know apparently he walked off unaided and he went down the tunnel straight away, but how did it come about? Was he tackled? Did he pull something when he was running? Or
he's done something to his groin by the looks of it, just on his own.
Oh God! So it's a no contact injury. That they're usually even worse, aren't they? Just players accelerating too quick or twisting the body the wrong way. So we can cross our fingers and hope that it's not too bad, but it just seems no matter how many fingers we cross, it always turns out to be the worst possible thing it can be when it's Everton, isn't it? So
yeah, and I mean, I don't really trust the medical team much. I know there was a bit of a change of personnel, not too recently, but I still can't see our luck with injuries changing. I feel like there needs to be some sort of change in the way we approach the medical side of things at the club, because no one else gets this many injuries. There's got to be something differently.
All teams get injuries, mate. All teams get injuries. It's more evident when Everton get injuries because our squad is so bad. A lot of other teams don't have to replace their first team players when they get injured with such dross that Everton do.
Donkeys.
Yeah, donkeys. So every team gets injuries. I know Everton seemingly are cursed. We've always got an important player injured at some point. You can count on your fingers how many times over the last few years we've had a full squad available to us, but every team gets injuries. It's nothing to do with the medical department, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. The vast majority of people watching this are probably not doctors. So injuries will always happen. It's just the injuries hurt Everton probably worse than they hurt anyone else because the players we've got to bring in to replace them are just so breathtakingly bad that it's like dropping off a cliff in terms of like for like.
Yeah, like you say, Richarlison now it's going to have to be Rondon again for Brentford.
Oh, don't. When he came on today, I couldn't help but laugh a little bit. Thought that was just Benitez.
I watched the stream of the American version of the broadcast in NBC. I'm sure I heard the commentators giggle about the prospect of Rondon playing for us in the absence of everyone else.
What's he called? Martin Tyler, who does the Sky commentary with Gary Neville. He said he was quite generous in what he said about Rondon. When he came on the pitch, he said he's not exactly started his Everton career off with a bang. And I thought, you're being very, very nice there, Martin. Mate, he started off his Everton career looking like someone who shouldn't be washing the sweaty kits for Everton, never mind getting on the pitch and playing for the first team. So when he came on, that was just when I thought, you know what? I mean, I still watch the game because there's nothing else on a Sunday. And I wanted to see if we had any other players go down injured or any other players get sent off. But at that point, I lost all emotional feeling for the game. I just thought, you know what, I don't care if it's 4, 5, 6-0 now. If we're bringing idiots like him on the pitch as what is basically our last throw of the dice, then Jesus Christ, like how far have we sunk?
Yeah, this is the issue now. Is like you say, we've got so many of our best personnel out. The players we've got to turn to doesn't bear thinking about. It's.
I mean, some players we're turning to, like Rondon. I know I've really ripped into him in the past, and I don't regret it at all. But there's certain players who are here as backups, but they were only ever signed to be backups. I still think it's a disgrace that they've been given an opportunity by the club. But there's other players who, when we signed them, were meant to come in and have a massive impact on the first team, and they have a massive impact on the first team for the negative. I mean, the worst player on the pitch for me today, by far, was Iwobi.
Yeah.
I mean, that fella is an absolute headless chicken, and I'll never get sick and tired of saying it. Whoever signed off on that deal, whoever sent that offer to Arsenal and then sent him the contract to sign, you want tying to the back of a car and you want dragging all the way down the M6. Honestly, Alex Iwobi is probably the player outside of someone else who's technically still at the club, but he's persona non grata now. We'll never be hearing about him again. Other than that fella, or let's say Iwobi has taken that fella's position now as my most hated player at the club. I can't stand the fella. Honestly, he's an headless chicken. He doesn't care because he
really doesn't care. That's
his body language gives away how little he cares. He's atrocious. And there was the bit, I think it was just before their second goal, or was it before the first goal? I wasn't sure. I think it might have been the first one because I think it was in the first half where he went clean. He went clean through on goal and he literally shat his knickers and stopped, looked around and let Kyle Walker catch up to him and nick the ball away from him.
Yeah, and then he hit the first man from across where Richarlison was wide open in the box as well.
Yeah, do you know what he looks like a lot of the time? He looks like, and I'm not saying this to offend anybody, honestly, he's like watching like a young girl play football. Do you know, like if when you were in school and the lads used to go play footy at break time, and then sometimes like a girl would try and join in, playing amongst all the lads, and you just think, what are you doing? It's like you can't compete. So I mean, I'm not saying that to be offensive, but it just like it stands out to you, and you think, what is the track? It's like when they get hold of the ball, he just panics and doesn't know what to do. Like,
honestly, I think that's pretty offensive because you put half of the women's team in our team, and they'd be well better than what we've got.
Well, they've got more spirit. I'll give them that. But what I was getting at that point is he's such a fish out of water. You look at him, you think, is this fella an actual professional footballer, or is he just someone who can do a couple of street skills on the curb?
He reminds me of the type of person you'd see in town, but like outside in Paradise Street, doing keep up, like seal juggles and all that, like juggling the ball on his head and all that.
Yeah, that's exactly what the point I'm getting at. He doesn't look like he trains like football wise. He must be uncoachable because there's not been one bit of improvement from him since the time he's got here. And he's had 3 managers now. He's had Marco Silva, he had Carlo Ancelotti, and now he's got Rafa Benitez. And the penny still hasn't dropped with him, and he's not doing anything. He's not got rid of any of the bad habits that he had when he got here. If anything, they've got worse, and he's not picked up any good habits.
I've seen that since his Arsenal days myself. That he's always been quite a brainless footballer.
How many managers has he played under in his career? Now is it 5? He had Arsene Wenger.
Wenger
made his debut under Wenger. Wenger's one of the greatest minds in the history of European football. He couldn't really figure out what he is or a way to channel his talent. Then he had Emery for a season, and Emery worked him out pretty quick. Yeah, Emery worked him out pretty quick and just treated him as a spare part and got rid of him as quick as he could. Then he had Marco Silva. I don't blame Silva for that signing. I doubt Marco Silva wanted Wilfred Zaha, and Wilfred Zaha was a waste of time. I don't know why we ever tried to get him, but basically we got Iwobi as a consolation for not getting Zaha. And Jesus Christ, if Marco Silva must have cried his eyes out after the first training session, thinking, "What is this they've given me here to work with?" And it wasn't long before Marco Silva dropped him. He started the first few games under Silva, but before long he was on the bench under Silva as well. And then Silva went and Ancelotti came in. Ancelotti, I think, gave him plenty of opportunities, and he didn't really do anything. Did he get one goal all the last season against Wolves?
Yeah.
Got one goal.
You can only score against Wolves.
Yeah, got one goal all season, and I think he got like maybe one assist. So, and he started a lot of games under Carlo Ancelotti as well. He got ample opportunity to stake his claim, to prove that he belongs here. And by the end, Ancelotti seemingly just gave up with him as well. He only played him when he had to. And now it's the same under Benitez. Benitez has had a look at him. And Benitez is another manager who's a great mind and knows what a great player looks like, or how you can build a player who's got talent into someone who's a great footballer. And he looks like he can't do anything with him either. So he's an headless chicken. And it wouldn't even be like if he was just giving it everything and you think, you know what, he's an absolute crab. But at least he is trying. At least he's got that. At least he tries. But I'm not convinced he does try, because every time he loses the ball, he doesn't sprint back to try and get it.
He cowers out to challenges a lot, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I've seen it on a number of occasions recently, in particular, that he seems to back out of the challenge.
I just think Iwobi's another Schneiderlin type player. Maybe he's not as big an arsehole personally as Schneiderlin was, because we know Schneiderlin was causing trouble in the changing rooms and with training with the coaches and all that. That story is well documented. But I think Iwobi's a player like Schneiderlin who just wants an easy life somewhere. He wants to go play somewhere in a nice city where he can take selfies on Instagram, wear his shit clobber, and just basically, if he loses a game or plays badly, no one's going to get on his back too much. So I think he needs to just go. We need to get rid of him if we can. And for his sake, he's not cut out to play for a big club, and he's not cut out to even play for a club that is aspiring for anything. There's clubs who I don't consider big clubs who probably wouldn't take him, and I don't blame them, because they're probably aiming.
On that note, Paul, are we actually aspiring for anything? Apart from staying up,
supporters are. But at board level, at board level, I think we're all aspiring. At board level, I think they're all aspiring for different things. You've got Moshiri, who's aspiring to for Hollywood, isn't he? Wants to take the club upwards. It's just he's going about it in terrible fashion. He's making awful decisions. He's trusting the wrong people. He's signing off on things that he shouldn't be signing off on. So Moshiri is clear that he's ambitious for the club, no matter what you think of him and what decisions he's made. He is ambitious. You've got then other people like Marcel Brands. God knows what his opinion is. We never hear from the fella. He only speaks to Dutch TV or Dutch newspapers. So God knows what he's aspiring for. We've got Kenwright and his cronies who've been here for 20 odd years, who are, I think, just aspiring to just be a little likeable family club that hang around the middle of the table and maybe have a cup run every 4 or 5 years, and that's all as good as it will ever be. So everyone's aspiring to different things. The owner's obviously got ambitions, and because you can't say he doesn't have ambition, because he's moving us into it. He's bought us a stadium, for Christ's sake, and it's getting built. No, so he does.
He's thrown a lot of money at the project of the squad as well, which hasn't worked out, obviously, but he's thrown the money. But what about the issues of maybe the involvement of Keir Abchan? You know, that is something he's brought with him that seems to have poisoned our recruitment.
Well, that falls under what I was just saying. Moshiri's heart is in the right place, but his mind is away with the fairies. He's making so many bad decisions, and he's trusting so many people who he shouldn't be giving the time of day to, like this Kia, whatever he's called. The likes of Riola. I know we've done a lot of business with Riola off the last few years. He's letting Kenwright still stick his oar into everything. He's given.
In the early days, he was leaking press releases to Jim White, and
there's that. There's given Marcel Brands a new deal when Marcel Brands from the outside looking in, looks like he doesn't even do anything, really. I just don't know. Do you know what I mean? It seems like everyone is pulling in different directions, and the club's just standing still because of it, or probably very slowly going backwards. So
it is going backwards because this will almost definitely be a relegation dogfight this season, or at least it will be until we bring in some personnel.
I think it's a bit early for that. I think we will be down the bottom half for several months now. We'll be looking over our shoulder rather than looking up for a while, but we're still not even halfway through yet the season. And hopefully after Christmas, when we've got this horrible run out the way and we've got players back from injury, then I think form will pick up, because Arsenal, look at Arsenal, they were in an absolute state in the early weeks of the season because of all the injuries. They had it at the same time, and then they got everyone back, and they were able to have time on the training ground together, and the manager was able to coach them properly, and the form picked up, didn't it? I know they just got tonked yesterday off Liverpool, but who doesn't get tonked by Liverpool at Anfield? Arsenal's form has picked up just as soon as they were able to get players back out on the pitch, and I'm reasonably sure the same will happen with Everton. I don't think we're going to be in a relegation battle, or I think it's too early to be assuming we will be. I do think things will pick up. It's just when they do pick up, what are we going to be aspiring to? Are we just going to be chasing another 9th, 10th place finish? Are we going to be chasing something even lower than that, like 12th, 13th? You just don't know. That it just depends on how other teams get on around us, because the table's so all over the place still. But going back to the game today, it just seemed like so many players were out on that pitch who you look at and you think, you know what, it's heartbreaking to think that we went from the likes of having Jagielka and Sylvain Distant, who were not perfect. They're not perfect. I'm not romanticising the Moyes era like a lot of people seem to do now. They seem to think that the Moyes era was like the glory days. It's like, come on, behave yourself. We were getting tonked in derbies and away at big clubs under David Moyes for 10 odd years. But we did have players who had a lot of ability.
The model professionals we had in that era.
It's not even what I'm going at there, because we had players who had egos and were a bit above themselves during the Moyes era. But what I was getting at, we had players who actually had talent and knew how to apply it the vast majority of the time, the likes of Jagielka and Distan. Instead of them now, we've got crabs like Michael Keane, who for the third goal didn't even know where the ball went and should have given away at least one penalty. I know the first one was a blatant dart by Sterling, but he fouled, was it Bernardo in the second half, by doing the exact same thing again, just sticking his leg out. And,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, kicking him and catching him on the foot. You got Michael Keane, who's just, I've always said it, him and Harry Maguire are basically the same player. It's just one of them's got a bigger head. They are the same player, they're just dozy. They haven't got a clue. They're not anywhere near top 6 level. They'd be lucky to play in a team that's playing in the top half.
I don't know how either of them get England caps.
I don't. Well, in Maguire's case, it's because of who he plays for. In Michael Keane's case, I don't know why. Gareth Southgate must just fancy him. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. But he's never, ever an international level player, Michael Keane, and he's not a player who belongs in a team that is going to be in the top half and wants to push up and challenge for trophies and for Europe. He belongs back at Burnley or a club somewhere around there. And it's, how long's he been? Is this his 5th season now? It's depressing to think he's even on his 5th season at Everton and he's still a starter. And then going back to the likes of Iwobi, players like him who we spent a fortune on, and to think I'd actually pay money now just to get him gone. I'd actually give a club money to take him off us. Other players who let us down, like going back to Rondon. I don't want to make it sound like I've got just a fetish for knocking him. But when he came on, it's just, you start laughing. You're thinking, how is this?
Well, the NBC American commentator did, I think.
Yeah, how is this idiot even anywhere near the Everton first team, even when we've got injuries, and even though we're not very good at the moment, he still shouldn't be anywhere near us. He wouldn't get in any other Premier League. He wouldn't get near any other Premier League team. Really? Was he getting the likes of Palace's team? Was he get on Palace's bench?
No,
I don't think he would. Would he get in?
He was at Newcastle and they were down the bottom. He got relegated with West Brom before that. He was a bottom half player then, and now we're talking he's into his 30s now when he wasn't back then.
If you'd offered Rondon back to Newcastle now, do you think Eddie Howe would say yeah? No. Even though the 5 points cut adrift at the bottom of the table, I don't think he would. I think you'd look at him and he'd think, I don't really think you can play my style of football. I don't really think I'm going to get any use out of you. So I don't think Newcastle would have him back. Norwich is probably the only club who would look at him would probably just think, yeah, he's worth having around just to throw on the pitch when 2-0 Pookie's knackered after an hour. But no other Premier League team would have him. Not even on their bench as an option, and he's getting put on for us to try and turn the game around and salvage something when we're 2-0 down. Do you know what I mean? It's just so many players let us down there today. I think the only 2 players, maybe 3, I don't really think Pickford. I know he had that little wobbler that he dropped across, I think, in the first half, but other than that, I think Pickford was okay. And Anthony Gordon and Townsend, they got stuck in and tried the best. But other than that, everyone else was just, they might as well not even turned up. Even and I say that about a couple of players who I do like as well. I like the likes of Alan and I like Godfrey, but they didn't perform anywhere near as well as they can do today. So it's just what we all expected, and it's just grim and it's depressing, and we've just got to try and get through this rocky period as best we can, and hope when we come out the other end that we're not in dire straits. And when I say dire straits, I mean is in like the bottom 4, bottom 3 of the table. Because I do think we can pick up in the second half of the season. It's just by the time we get that comes around, if it does come around, hopefully, when we've got players back and we've got an easy run of fixtures, I do think we can pick up some wins after the new year. It's just where will those wins get us? Will they take us from the bottom 4 to like the bottom 7? If so, then this is going to be one depressing season.
Well, Terry Preston, we're going to go through some of the comments, see what people have had to say. Terry Preston, straight off the bat in the chat, says, currently the worst team in the league. I can't argue with that.
I don't think. I think we're the worst team in the league in terms of how we've been affected by injuries. But I don't think we're as bad as Newcastle or as bad as, I was going to say bad as Norwich, but they've won their last 2 games. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we are, as I was touching on before, I don't think we are a team that's going to end up in the relegation zone, at least not when it comes to the business end of the season. We're not going to be that far down, but at the moment, it just looks like we can't buy a win. Really, I think the only teams that are confident of us beating at the moment are those teams that are currently in the bottom 3. I don't think we're going to beat Brentford next week. I'd love a draw against Brentford, even though Brentford have dropped off recently.
I think they'll comfortably do us in the absence of Richarlison.
Probably. I think we are a team that will set ourselves up in a way that Brentford will be rubbing their hands together, because Brentford are all high energy, aren't they? And
they'll have us on toast. Gavin Cunningham says, relegation material with all the players to match. Coleman, Alan, Townsend, Rondon all in the 30s. That's a shit like Keane and Iwobi. The squad is shit.
I don't disagree with him.
As he says there.
No, I don't disagree with him.
Yeah. And that was before we even went live. We're getting straight into the nitty-gritty of it now. Let's see what other guys have had to say. Cypher B, why not bring on Sims instead of Rondon, considering we gave him a new contract?
No idea.
Getting back to fitness, but, I mean, even just a little run out there, he wasn't going to touch the ball much anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Rondon came on and it was... I don't remember him touching the ball.
I think he fouled Bernardo Silva and got away with it. That was all I remember him doing.
Yeah, it's a myth. I've said plenty of times that no matter how bad it gets injury-wise, there are physical playing staff at the club we could put on the pitch who would justify being on there more than Rondon does. The likes of Dobbin, the likes of Sims. Even if you just put them on and say, literally just run around for a bit, and that's all I want you to do. Just get on the pitch and just move. Just actually cover some ground. And if you do that, then you've already done more than Rondon does in a game.
Aaron Koeman says, the Athletic have hinted that Moshiri was the one who signed off on Iwobi. And this is what I mean. I think we've got to be giving Moshiri a harder time, I think, to be honest. He's done a lot for the club, the new stadium and whatnot. But a very interesting point, actually, I'm going to touch on. This isn't actually from the live chat. This is a tweet that someone who I think a lot of us might follow on Twitter, Big Fella Yeri, probably a controversial take, but if there's any indication of Bramley Moore-Dock preventing us from investing in the team over the next few years, swerve it off.
No, don't agree with that.
Is that too much of a hot take?
For me, yeah. I mean, Goodison, mate, we've needed to leave Goodison for about 20 years. We just need to. I love Goodison, but we can't just bin off getting a new stadium just because the team's crap and we want to buy 3 or 4 players who will make it better overnight. No, like the stadium that's getting built now, that will set us up for decades to come. We're not suddenly going to become a great team just by going there, but we are going to have a proper state-of-the-art modern home for the club, and that stadium is going to be there for goodness how long. Goodison's been going for well over 120 years, hasn't it? So
precisely, but
no, the stadium, it's non-negotiable. There's nothing you could offer me that would make me turn around and say, all right, I'll give up Bramley-Moore Dock just if it means that we can have that. Even if you said to me the club could win a trophy this season, but you've got to, or the club will win something significant over the next few years, but the price for that is you've got to basically bin off going to Bramley-Moore. It's still an absolute no. We've got to push forward with Bramley-Moore.
I think a lot of people are saying at this stage, people who are turning on Farhad Moshiri, probably trying to cut the nose off to spite the face. Maybe he's delivering the new stadium. A lot of people are that annoyed about the way he's interfering with the football elements. Is that I think a lot of people have turned on him in that respect to the point where they don't really care too much about the new stadium, even if it is a bit more short-sighted.
Yeah, that's the word, mate. They're just being short-sighted and they're ripping the nose off to spite the face. They're just being typical Evertonians. I know we're all annoyed that the club's in the state it's in, but you are joking, aren't you, when you're saying basically that you're so annoyed that the fella who's basically delivering us a stadium, he can swerve off, he can take his new stadium and get lost, and we can go back to the Bill Kenwright days of him just basically never communicating with the fans at all and not having the money to push through a deal for that Leroy Fair, even though he's been announced.
I'm going to stop you there, Paul, because you think about it, though. We've got no money now, and he still don't communicate with us.
We have got money. We're not allowed to spend it. We have got money. We just, until the FFP gets sorted out, and it's our own fault the FFP's in the situation it is. But under the previous owner, even though he's still here, the previous regime before Farhad Moshiri, we physically didn't have any money at all. Literally, we were in debt to the banks. We had to go to the banks every single year and beg them not to call in loans because it would just cripple us. We're not in any debt now. There's no chance of the club going out of business or going into administration and having points deducted like Derby have had. That was a very real danger during the Moyes Kenwright era from the 2000s to the early 2010s. So no, like Moshiri's, there's plenty to be annoyed at him about, and I wouldn't criticise anyone who wants to get really stuck into him over the fact that he's allowed so many idiots to come to the club and make decisions for him or influence his own decisions. But I would never, ever, ever, ever turn around and say that I wish he'd never come. No chance. No. I was going back to what I touched on before. People are romanticising this era of Everton for 10 odd years ago when we were finishing 5th and 6th, but basically we're having to get loans every season and freeze every season. And the only thing that saved us was the fact that David Moyes was just an absolute master at picking out diamonds in the rough, wasn't he? He was great at picking up these unwanted players and motivating them and helping them bring out the best of the talent and turning them into really, really good footballers again. The likes of Pienaar, the likes of your Artetas, the likes of your there's probably others as well, maybe Distans, not players who I wouldn't say who were journeymen, but they kind of been around Europe at various clubs, hadn't they? And they hadn't really found a specific home anywhere, and they hadn't really got a good run of form under a certain manager and kicked on. Yeah, going back to that era, it was very good. It had its pluses and its negatives, probably more pluses than negatives. I enjoyed the vast majority of it, but let's not be naive. Let's not go back and assume if we were still operating like that, we wouldn't be relegated by now. The Premier League's changed an awful lot in the last 10 years. If we didn't have Farhad Moshiri, we'd have gone down years ago. Honestly, we beat Leeds. We beat Nottingham Forest.
Probably the year after he joined. Like, he joined in 2015.
We'd have gone down.
As a stayed for 16-17, I think we could have been right in the mire then.
Yeah, and if we hadn't, and even if we had got rid of Martinez, who would we have got in to replace him? Probably just some championship manager who tickled Kenwright's bollocks in an interview and chatted him up. No, bottom line is what I'm making. If we didn't have Farhad Moshiri at the club, then we would absolutely have gone down between now and when he arrived. How long has he been here? About 5 years. In these 5 years of his tenure, he wasn't here, we would have been relegated. I would bet my life on that.
I mean, us going down is still not beyond the realms of possibility.
No, it's not. It's not. But I don't think it's that bad. Yeah. I mean, it's still absolutely nowhere near. It's still far back. It's still far worse than it ever should be, or whatever should be accepted, or even understood. But even when we were really bad under Silver and we were in the bottom three for a while, I was looking at it and thinking the squad, when it's fit, is simply too good to go down. There is not 18 more clubs in this league that are better than us. There isn't when there's fully fit. The teams that go down are the three worst teams, and there's 17 teams above them. So yes, that was my point I was making. There's not 17 clubs in this league who will finish above us. There isn't.
I haven't seen 17 teams. I haven't seen 3 teams in total play worse than us, though.
That's true, but just because not every team that has the worst run of form in the season ends up going down, do they? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The 3 teams that go down near enough every year are the 3 teams who were the worst, who deserve to go down. And the 17 teams that stay up are the teams that were not in the bottom, literally not in the bottom 3 worst teams. And I don't think Everton are in the bottom 3 worst teams. Not by much. We're probably in the bottom 6 or 7 right now with the injuries we've got to deal with. But no, I don't think we're going to go down, and I don't think we're in any serious danger of going down. But we are probably going to end up finishing in the bottom half of the table unless we have this great run of form in the second half of the season.
Yeah, James Brinkley says, I'd argue we're one of the worst teams in the league. I don't think we'll get relegated, but honestly, I do think this and next year are basically survival.
I think this year and next year it's a word everyone's sick of, but they are literally just transition. We've been stuck in transition for about 5 years because we've had about 4 or 5 different managers, and every manager's first year and a half at least are going to be transition. So it's this season to just get it out the way, because we couldn't spend anything. Hopefully the FFP situation will be looking better next summer. And then next summer, we'll kind of see where we are. Let's see if we can ship 1 or 2 horrible players we all hate out the door. We've got a bit more wiggle room. And if we can get 2 or 3 really good players in, then maybe next season, if just everything stays stable, I think that's a good word. If we can just have a stable year where there's nothing dramatically bad happening, I know the injuries you can class under that, but other than that, if there's nobody, we're not selling anybody, or there's not our best players get long-term injuries where they're going to be out for a year plus, because we've had that happen in recent years where players just end up have season enders and they come back a year later and they take another 6 months after coming back to get up to speed again. As long as none of that happens, then hopefully when we get to next summer, we can start planning for a better season next year where we can end up maybe pushing on for something. I mean, if you'd offered me now, top and bottom, if you said to me now, you can finish 10th again. You can finish 10th again this season, but you don't do anything in the cups and you're going to get spanked half a dozen times at least, and you're going to have some grim days, and you're going to have a couple of good days as well, then I'd probably take it. Because if you'd offered us 10th now, I'd have it. And if you said to me, you can have 10th now and you can have, I don't know, 8th next season, I think it'd be very, very tempting, because at least that would be a sign that we are progressing and we are slowly but surely going in the right direction. I know it's grim to even listen to the idea that we're just not going to do anything in the next few years at all, but no team that ends up doing anything did it without having a few transitional, boring years first, and that's just basically what we've got to go for. We just have a couple of boringly grim seasons, but not so grim that we're in any danger, and then hopefully we've got them out the way and things have sorted themselves out off the pitch that we can end up pushing on for something.
That's the issue, though. Are things going to get sorted out off the pitch?
Only if certain people leave the club, I think, or certain people stop getting listened to. Certain people have to move on, and certain people need to stop having any influence at all.
Is that going to happen?
Maybe. I think maybe when I was saying people stop having influence, I mean the likes of these agents who have got Moshiri's here. Maybe that might happen. Maybe Moshiri will finally just stop listening to the people who've helped him made so many bad decisions. You've got to think he's going to be learning some sort of lessons, because you can't think he's going to be talked into making another Iwobi type signing again, surely. And you've got to think that he's not going to be talked into chasing players who were never realistically going to get, and we're wasting time on them, because he's done that as well, like chasing the likes of Saha, chasing the likes of Zuma, wasting months on these players that were never ever coming. And last season, wasting time on Dumfries when he was never ever coming, and apparently the manager didn't even, Benitez specifically, didn't want Dumfries. Brands wanted him, but apparently Dumfries didn't. Hopefully we can sort all that out where everyone just kind of goes in the same direction. Everyone knows what we're after. Everyone knows what we're looking for, what the plan is, and we all work towards it. But in terms of certain people leaving the club, then probably not.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Curry says, can't keep changing managers, especially in the name of desperation. We've been doing that since Moyes, and that's why the club's in the state it's in. Starts at the top, owner and board.
Yeah, it's true. And that touches on what I was just going on about. We just need to have a stable season. And I know stable's basically another word for boring. But if you're going to get your house in order, then you need to have these type of years. Liverpool had them. First 2 years under Klopp. I know they ended up getting in the top four, but they didn't do anything in the cups. They weren't achieving what their fans thought they should be achieving. Same with United to an extent. I mean, I know it's gone pear-shaped this year, but before this year, they were going in the right direction under Solskjaer, but it was still grim. They were still getting to semi-finals, or what they think is grim. They were still getting to semi-finals and then losing, and they were still in the top four the majority of the year, but getting spanked by 6-1 by Tottenham, and getting spanked at Anfield by Liverpool, and getting spanked every time they played City. But they were still progressing. It was just boring in the sense that they had nothing to show for it at the end. They had no trophy, or they had no big scalp. Basically our equivalent to that, Everton at the moment, is just somehow managing to stay in and around the top half, basically, and not have anywhere near the danger. We might not have anything to show for it by the end of the season that fans can look back on and think, oh, what a great day that was, like a derby win, or going to a big club away and winning, or having a really good cup run or something like that. We're probably not going to have that, but as long as we're not anywhere near the bottom group of clubs who are all scrapping it out for survival, even when it gets to like April, as long as we're not in that, then it's basically just going to have to be a season where you have to take what you can get.
How on earth has it come to that after 5 or 6 years of ownership that we're saying that? We weren't even saying that under Martinez's final season until towards the end.
It was what we've already discussed about, mate, because we've got an owner who has got money but hasn't got any sense to go with it, and he listens to people who've got their own agendas, or in some cases people who just haven't got a clue themselves. We've got people at the club who haven't got an ambitious bone in the body. They just want Everton to be the most likeable club in the Premier League, a family club that looks after each other and gives leg ups to drug failing losers and no marks who get done for beating up the wife. Then you've got people at the club like the director of football, who seems like he's only here for to fill his pockets, basically, because I don't see what else he does. He certainly doesn't explain what he does to the supporters, and every time he does an interview, he just ends up giving fans more questions than answers about him. So it's the way it is, mate, because as we were saying before, everyone's wanting different things. Everyone's pulling in different directions. Nobody's taking charge and saying, no, this is how it is, and you all get in line with this, or you just get off, or not even that. No, this is how it is, and I don't want you here. You leave now, because I want someone here in your space who I know I can trust and is going to back me up to the hilt. We haven't got that. We've got everyone who's got their own opinion of what Everton should be. We've got an owner who's trying to run before he can walk. We've got a chairman and his cronies who just basically want to be
keeping it in the dark ages, really.
Just are more bothered about charity work than they are about achieving things. They're more bothered about people from on the outside looking at the club as this nice little family, rather than this club that is actually a cutthroat business who achieve things. And we've got a director of football who seems like he's not asked what the people above him think. He just wants his money.
Andrew Bowen says Liverpool will be the game because their fans will be singing Rafa's name. If we were losing 2 or 3 down, it could get very hostile.
It shouldn't, though, because it's not Benitez's fault.
We've got to reiterate this, because these people above, we've mentioned these names here, well, even without naming names, the people above have appointed Rafa Benitez in the knowledge that this could have been a disastrous season, and they've got an easy scapegoat.
If, God forbid, it does go horribly bad in the derby game and you want to sing and let your frustration out, I don't think you should talk unless he does something stupid on the day, like he starts Rondon or he makes a substitution that everyone's fuming about because it's clearly the wrong one. Unless that happens, then if you want to take your frustration out on someone when we're getting tonked in a game, take it out on the people above him. And I've going back to what I said, I don't necessarily think you should take it out on the owner. Or whatever he is, the majority shareholder, whatever title you've got to refer to him as. Take it out on the other people. Take it out on brands. Take it out on Ken Knight. Take it out on the bloody players who don't care. They're the ones who deserve it more than anyone. Take it out on the likes of Iwobi. Take it out on the likes of, what's his face, Fabian Delph, who has just sat off injured for 2 years, and now suddenly because he's played 2 games in a row, everyone's thinking that his shit doesn't stink. Do you know what I mean? Take it out on the likes of, what's his face? Michael Keane, who might be a sensitive soul, but I'm sorry, mate, if you're too sensitive to what the fans getting on your back when you're playing badly, then don't be a footballer then. Get on the likes of, what's his face is back as well. It's gone out of my head now, but what I'm saying is, if you're going to let your frustration out and you want to sing and tell everyone at the world how unhappy you are when things are going bad in a game, don't take it out on Benitez necessarily, or he shouldn't be your first target. Take it out on the players. Take it out on the people who are getting the decisions terribly bad upstairs. Take it out on the people who are desperate to keep the club in the dark ages, as you said. You're not achieving anything by chanting Rafa out, or you fat Spanish waiter, or you fat cop like this. That achieves nothing. It doesn't. It's not. It's not, because if Benitez goes, who are we going to bring in who's going to do any better than him? Who? Tell me, please. Someone who'd come as well. Someone who'd look at it and think, you know what, I can go in there and I can turn it round. You'll get people who think they can turn it round, but they're probably just another Martinez, delusional lunatics.
It would be I wouldn't be surprised if it was Martinez.
If that happened, then I think I really would give up, genuinely, because it was bad. He's another one who fans, not as much as they do with David Moyes, but more fans seem to be romanticising his era now and talking as if it wasn't as bad that as people were making out it was under him, mate. I wanted to hit the telly every time he came on the screen when we were getting battered and he was talking as if it was great. Do you know what I mean? We've had managers who are absolute bastards since him, or managers who just absolutely screwed things up terribly. But they didn't stand there and laugh in your face, apart from Allardyce, maybe. They didn't stand there and laugh in your face and tell you that the team had played brilliantly when we'd just been tonked, like Roberto Martinez did. So, no.
No, Whammy Spoons, Everton, the People's Club, shut your face. It isn't the People's Club. If it was the People's Club, we'd have the People's AGM.
People's Club, again, it's just another tag, isn't it? That worked for a good few years as well. Because a couple of people really bought into the People's Club, as in like, oh yeah, this club that looks after each other, and we're a family club, and we do things the right way, and blah blah blah. Which is basically another way of saying, yeah, we're just a gang of Gutless fannies. Really, it is. We give jobs to people who don't deserve jobs. We protect players who.
They called Jimmy White the People's Champion because he never won something in snooker, didn't he?
No, but Jimmy White had a lot of talent. Jimmy White didn't win in snooker because he was against the best players of his era. When he played Stephen Henry, I think 5 times in a final, and Stephen Henry's, I think, statistically at least, the best snooker player ever. No, we get the people. The People's Club is basically just another way of saying, yeah, we're a club that doesn't win anything, and we've got no ambition to win anything, but we're dead nice. We're dead nice. We're dead matey with everyone. We'll look after you. We'll make sure that if your life or your career is at the skids, oh, come here, don't worry, we'll make sure that you're not down and out fully. When I know you can't give us anything in return for it, I know you're not going to get out on the pitch and do anything, I know you're not going to help the academy in any meaningful way, you're not going to be an ambassador for the club who people look at and think, oh God, like that seems like the greatest club, I want to get involved with that. No, People's Club's just another way of saying that, as I said before, we're just a gang of gutless arseholes.
Toffee Blues, just putting up the stats. Everton are 20th. So bottom of the form chart.
Oh, don't even read it, mate, please. I don't want to be depressed as well as annoyed.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's the way it is. Joe Briggs says 20th in the form charts because we've literally got our most crucial players injured. Don't be so reactive. I'll give anyone 100 to 1 on us getting relegated this year. Anyone want to lend me a quid?
No, I agree with Joe. Yeah, that's a sensible comment. It goes back to what I was saying. Arsenal looked absolutely garbage in the first few weeks of the season because they just had so many players unavailable for them. And then what happened as soon as they got all their players back? They picked up form again. They started winning games, and then all of a sudden their fans were looking at it thinking, what were we overreacting for in the first few weeks of the season? Not to say that Arsenal are suddenly like this brilliant club with a brilliant manager and they've got nothing to be wary about or there's no reason for them to think that things are wrong off the pitch. But Joe's right when he says, yeah, the chances of us getting relegated are still very, very low at this point, I think. And when we get players back on the pitch, we will pick up form. We will start picking up more points, especially when this run of fixtures is over. It's just, whilst we're in the middle of this fixtures, in the middle of this shitstorm, we've just got to try and have a bit of perspective about it. I know it's hard. It's Everton, isn't it? They grind you down. But, I don't know.
James Brinkley, if we can't pull the plug on Benitez, if we do, we set ourselves back even further than we are now.
Yeah, I agree.
Could seriously harm the club. Yeah, I think Benitez is probably, while he takes some blame,
I think he does.
I think he's the last in the firing line for me.
Yeah, I don't. Benitez. There's a lot of reasons to be angry at Benitez and to take it and to cascade him, type thing. But do you know? But I'm not silly enough to think that if we got rid of him, it would make things better. It would only get worse if we got rid of Benitez. Because I'll say it before, once more. If Benitez went, who do you really think could come in and do any better than him with this group of players, with this injury record that we've got? With the players we have, the players we've got available, who would come in and do better than Benitez is doing?
The only one who would have done better is the one who we had to replace with Benitez.
Ancelotti. But Ancelotti's gone. He's not coming back. He doesn't bear thinking about for me. I don't think there's any. Even David Moyes, everyone's loving David Moyes or what he's doing at West Ham, and it goes. It touches upon what I said before. People are over romanticising the Moyes era now. Fair play to David Moyes. He's picked his career up again, and he's reminded everyone of what he's capable of a manager. But if he'd have come back to Everton in the 2020s, he would not be doing for us what he's doing for West Ham. He wouldn't be. And if he was transported into our dugout now, then I don't think he'd be doing any better than what Benitez is managing to do.
No, he wouldn't. And I can tell you for why, because this season has a lot of similarities. I think I remember 2009-10, right after the cup, Lescott left. Yeah. We had a terrible, terrible run of injuries then, and we were 16th on New Year's Day. It's got the feel of a typical Moyes middle of the late 2000s Moyes season. Nearly all of Moyes seasons followed this path that we're following now, where we'd start really badly. Well, not really badly, but we wouldn't pick up many points. We wouldn't be anywhere near the European places for before Christmas. We would be in the bottom half almost always going into New Year, and then maybe we do something in January, or we got a player back from injury, and we always picked up form, and we ended up always finishing around the European places or just outside of that. I think after 2006, I think it was. I don't think after that Moyes ever finished outside of the top 8. He'd either get us 8th, 7th. There was 2 years where we got 5th. And there was, I think, 2 seasons when we got 8th, and maybe 2 seasons when we got 7th. And I think in his final year we got 6th, didn't we? But in all, I think nearly in all of those seasons, what I've just rattled off then, in nearly all of them, we were really poor in the first half of the season, and we didn't pick up form until after Christmas. And that was when we went on a good winning run, usually. But before that, we'd go through get a run of form where we'd lose 3 or 4 on the bounce, where we'd win maybe 1 in 8. It was typical. And that's the same era now that fans are wishing that we could go back to. But I think that was the thing. We had very similar scenarios, like the lack of spending power for different reasons, obviously. The lack of squad depth at that time as well.
Yeah.
Whenever there was a lot of injuries, you saw 2009, we were 16th on New Year. I think we were not far off that. We looked really dour one season when we had Strachwalesi, and after Arteta left, I think until Jelavic came in that season halfway through, I think we looked like we were in a relegation scrap then.
Yeah, and it was before that. I think it might have been a year or 2 before. when I think the only signing we made all summer was Beckford on a free from Leeds, and
I was going to game season tickets back then. It was very similar seasons, all of them. We were in the bottom half every Christmas.
Yeah, we were, and we were losing home games to the likes of. I think we might have lost to Bolton 4-0, or we lost.
West Brom 4-1. I remember.
Yeah, that was another one, and yeah, I'm not sure what season that was. I think it was 10-11 or 11-12.
10-11 was the West Brom. Then there was 05-06 when we lost 4-0 to Bolton. I think Stelios Yanakopoulos scored at hat-trick. That was right after Villarreal, when we just fell off a cliff. And
yeah,
I think that we had a few injuries then. I think
no, the season that's reminded me most of this season, I think, is that 10-11 one where I can't remember who it was. I don't know if we sold Arteta that season, or whether Arteta was still injured because of the tackle at Newcastle, or just we had players out. We had players who we didn't have anyone. I think we were just playing Cahill up front in a lot of games, and we had Beckford, who had a bit of an on-off relationship with Moyes and wasn't necessarily. I mean, I thought Beckford deserved more than the one season he got, but we were playing Beckford, and he took a long time to finally start it in the back of the net. I don't think he scored until like December. We had Fellaini, I think, had a bad injury that year. I think he got an injury in the derby the year before, and he never came back until halfway through the next season. I think this is the season. So yeah, 2010-11 is the season that's reminded me most of this one, where it was really, really grim for the first 4 or 5 months, and you're looking at it thinking, we're going to be right down there. This is good. If you offered me relegation, if you'd offered me survival now, I'd just take it, and I don't care about the rest of the season. But we ended up, as I've said so many times, we ended up getting everyone back from injury, picked up a bit of form. Moyes worked his magic in the transfer window, getting a couple of loans in, and we ended up finishing very comfortably, I think, in 8th. Now, I know Evertonians want better than 8th, and I want better than 8th, but just a season where you've got so much going on off the pitch, and you've got so many problems, and you're in such flux that we are. I'd bite your hand off for 8th now.
I mean, I remember a time, I think that 2005-06 season at one point was torturous. I remember there was like a 4-game period where we lost 4-0 at West Brom, 4-0 at home to Bolton, then 4-0 away at Villa, and then lost the derby 3-0.
I think we lost that. I think that might have been the year we 05-06. That was when we had like the white under the sleeves, wasn't it? Like that. It was Villarreal.
Yeah, bad season. I remember bad season though.
Yeah, I think that was the lowest scoring season we've had in the Premier League. I think we scored like 33 goals in 38 games. I always remember it for James Beattie and Simon Davis and them, just players who rare misses from Moyes. They came in and they didn't deliver. But even then, in that season that you're talking about, that is remembered for being so grim with what happened with Villarreal, and then just having such a weak squad all the way through. Do you know where we ended up finishing that year?
10th, I think.
11th, which
11th,
again is really, really depressing. But it's still nowhere near relegation. Do you know what I mean? So I think people who are talking about relegation, they're just being reactionary. We're not at that point yet. If we're still in the state we're in by about February, then yeah, I'll be panicking along with you. But people are being too quick to assume we're going to be in deep trouble, just like we were a couple of years ago when we were in trouble under Silva, and we actually were in the bottom 3 because we made a bollocks of the season. We ended up bringing in Ancelotti, and even though we finished 11th under Ancelotti, we were still nowhere near relegation. And I think a lot of other managers other than Ancelotti would have come in and replaced Silva and still got us well up away from relegation. And I think Benitez is definitely going to do it for us this year.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think I'm just getting very revisionist. I'm trying to remember like these. I think that it's quite easy to forget these dark periods under Moyes. I forget like how many grim sort of Decembers we had.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. People David Moyes' era at Everton was more good than bad, but that's why it annoys me when people talk about him as if he was Harry Catterick for Everton. Like, do you know how great it was under Moyes, how much spirit we had, how much fight? It's like, yeah, I remember never winning a derby under Moyes. I remember going to big away grounds and being absolutely gutless, just like we are now. I remember having these Decembers that you talk about where we're getting battered by West Brom and we're getting battered by Bolton, and we can't even get Leroy Fair in because we can't afford the wage, or we can't get that whoever he was called, that Belgian centre mid, because the fax machine broke. Yeah, I remember all of that. Yeah, I remember all of that. So we've been in this situation before. It wasn't suddenly an awful lot better than this under Moyes, and I just wish we could go back to that. No, come on, give your head a wobble.
I mean, to be fair, I remember the eras of like the really bad injury crisis of 2009, when we had like Lucas Neal at centre back, and I
He
think
did well.
Coleman was a kid, had to play left back, and we were getting whacked off
Benfica,
and I remember that was quite a tough start to that season.
Yeah, we had up front. I think we only had Saha, and I think that wasn't the year. I think that was it. Saha.
Yakubu was still on the treatment table. I think we had Anachibi was still injured. I think we only had Saha, and then Joe went AWOL and never came back.
Yeah, we had Joe on loan, who was just an head case. We had Anachibi, who was injured for a lot of it, and even when he wasn't injured, he was such a frustrating footballer, wasn't he? And a lot of the time, we had to just play Fellaini or Cahill as like a makeshift number 9. A lot of the time, we just played Fellaini through the middle and just umped it long to him, didn't we? Or we just played Cahill there and had Cahill just whip corners in and hope Cahill could get his head on one of them. So, I mean, we've gone on for a little bit now, but I think that if there's anything to take from the stream, it's, yes, we know it's grim. We know it's so depressing. We know that there's not a lot of hope around at the moment, but don't overreact to the bit. We're not in a relegation battle yet. And I don't think we are going to be in a relegation battle. We are going to pick up form when we get players back. Any talk of getting rid of the manager is just, it's ripping your nose off to spite your face, as you said about earlier on. We've just got to ride this out.
Grim to think, but we rode it out under Moyes for years.
Yeah, we did, and people seemingly love that now. Love those memories. So, what's your problem with riding it out under Benitez when he's having a season very similar?
Let's make more new miserable memories.
I don't know. I mean, we've just got to hope that we can get all the badness worked out of the club's system this season and maybe a little bit of next season, and then in 2 to 3 years we'll be looking back at this laughing. I know it's wishing for pigs to fly, really, isn't it? But if you've got no hope in football, then you should probably just stop watching football.
That's what I've done for large parts of this season, to be honest with you, mate. Toffee Blue Nose, I don't blame Benitez, it's the board. I think Benitez isn't blameless, but I'm generally on that side of the fence. I think the big thing for me is, like, I just want to see us keep our players fit. We need to try and prevent these injuries as much as we can.
Yeah,
then
definitely.
we get a fighting chance.
Yeah, definitely. But as I was saying before, it's not like we can just hire a physio who's got a magic sponge and he can suddenly make a player's injury go away instantly. We've just got to sign better players, so when we do get injured, the drop-off's not so stark. That's say it again. Every team gets injuries, every single team, but there's no other team that feels the effects of their injuries as bad as Everton do, because outside of our strongest 11, we're just so dross. We go from being a team that looks like we should be in the top 8, definitely the top 10, maybe the top 8, probably not quite the top 6, to being a team that, as you said, looks like they should be in a relegation battle. Players like Iwobi, players like Rondon, players like Michael Keane, players like probably Delph don't look like they'd be out of place playing for the team that was fighting for relegation all season. Michael Keane wouldn't look out of place in the Newcastle team. Iwobi wouldn't look out of place in the Newcastle team. Rondon wouldn't look out of place in the Norwich team. Andre Gomez probably wouldn't look out of place in who else is down there, the Leeds team.
No, Andre Gomez would have been, really, if you think about it, if we hadn't signed him, he'd have probably ended up going to Wolves when they were still getting promoted out the Championship.
Probably. But again, they're all players who, if they went down and played for a team that is typically in the bottom 5 every season, the likes of your Burnleys, the likes of your Newcastles, I know they went bottom 5 last season, but they look like they're going to be bottom 5 at least this season. Just teams who all they do all season is just focus on not getting relegated. They don't look up at any point in the season, never, and they don't aspire for anything other than survival. There's so many players in our team who either wouldn't get in those teams to begin with or wouldn't look at all out of place in them. And if that's the case with you, if that's what your ability level is, you should be near Everton Football Club. So we've just got to get our house in order and start signing some better players.
Hopefully started in January. Joe Briggs, Gray is such a blow. Why can't our shite players keep getting injured? And the good point is, Wormy Spoons hit the nail on the head before I even has a chance to here. They don't try. Imagine Iwobi never gets injured because he never sprints.
Yeah, exactly. It's very hard to stay fit. It's very easy to stay fit, rather, when you don't actually run around and do anything. There's not many people who get injured walking, is there?
Precisely. But hopefully, I think we just need to get players back, and got to hope that injury is not too serious. We just need to get players back and just try and get a proper 11 put together where we can just get a bit of cohesion back. Like we did seem to have it at the start of the season when everyone was available. But
yeah, and we'll have it again if we can get a couple of back at the same time. But until then, it's just going to be what it is, and we've just got to grit our teeth, I suppose.
James Hewson Paul summed up Iwobi beautifully with his little anecdote.
What about how he's like when you're at school and you're playing football on your lunch, and one of the girls in your year starts trying to join in for a laugh?
Presumably.
Not like, probably, yeah. Like, this happens at my school. Just girls who would join in because they know it would annoy all the lads. Like, they just get the ball and just try and kick it out to play or something like that because they just know everyone will get wound up at them. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it's like with Iwobi. It's like he's ran on the pitch just to be shit on purpose and just get everyone else who's playing the game annoyed, thinking, what are you ruining our game of fun for?
Final thing before we finish up, Erwin Koeman. Honestly, lads, what would it take to pull the plug? I get where you guys are coming from, but if we lose the next two...
Pull the plug on what? But Benitez?
Sack Benitez, I think he means.
Sack Benitez? Only if we were in, like, a relegation dogfight come March, April. If it's far too early, I would absolutely not sack him before February. No chance. But if we get to March time or April time, where we're in the business end of the season, we're into like the last dozen or so games, like where we were under Walter Smith, where we've got to the end, the point in the season where we've lost so many games now, and it's spiraling out of control. It's just clear that the manager, no matter what you think of him, the manager isn't able to impact the players anymore. He isn't able to get any more out of them. And at that point, you just got to cut ties, haven't you, and wish him luck and go on his way, like we did with Walter Smith. But again, we're not at that stage yet.
We spoke about the Moyes seasons. It's got the makings of that Walter Smith season when he got the sack as well. Because to be fair, Walter Smith had us top of the table in August that season, and then he ended up getting the sack.
I know he's gone now, so I don't really want to speak ill of him. But Walter Smith was just not a good manager for Everton. I know a lot of it. He had a lot of things he had to deal with, but he got sacked for a reason, and it was absolutely right that we did sack him. That's one of the only things. That's one of the only things I will ever give Bill Kenwright props for. When he made that decision to sack Walter Smith and take a gamble on David Moyes. That is one of the very few things that he undeniably got right as the owner and as the chairman by cutting bait with Walter Smith and bringing in David Moyes. But there's not much else.
Yeah, I guess so. But I personally think Walter Smith did all right until the final season. I think he had some bad luck. Yeah,
he had a lot of bad luck, and people don't really want to. Even before he passed a couple of weeks ago, people didn't really want to go in too hard on him because he did do what a lot of other managers haven't done since he left, and that's win derbies regularly, didn't he? And the players looked like they had a little bit of fight. It's just, for me, just tactically, he wasn't good enough in this league. I'm too young to really remember him. Maybe I'm saying things I haven't got the right to say, and older fans will be able to give you a better example from me. But from the Everton that I have seen during the Walter Smith era and talking to Evertonians who remember it, they all, at least the ones I spoke to, it just seems like Walter Smith was a bit out of his depth for a club as big as Everton. I know he managed Rangers, he's managed big clubs, but with the expectation that was at Everton, I just think it was a bad fit at the wrong time.
And Benitez, do you think he'll be able to turn this around then?
I don't know, but there's no one out there who I'd have more faith in to turn it around than him. We could realistically get anyone else. If he got rid of him, got rid of anyone else. There's no one who will look at and think, you know what? Yeah, I'd much rather have you steering the ship than Rafa Benitez. There isn't. So
I'd be inclined to agree with that. Like I say, if Ancelotti had stuck around, he'd have been the only one to think better suited.
Ancelotti's justified going because he's got Real Madrid top of the table, and he's probably going to win the league at Real Madrid. And then once he's done that, he can say he's won the league in Germany, Spain, France, and England. That's probably the only thing he hasn't got left on his CV, a league title in Spain.
He'll manage Italy probably, and that'll be it.
Probably, yeah, that'll be it. That's probably the only thing in his career that he looks back at and regrets it. And it's probably one of the reasons he went back, the fact that he didn't win the league with Real Madrid when he had a team that was good enough to win it. He won the Champions League, and he's always been Real Madrid history for that. But he must have looked back at it and think, that's one trophy that I haven't got on my CV that I'd really love to have, a league title in Spain, because then I could say I've got one in England, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. Yeah.
I think, as we know, obviously, there was Koeman in the dugout for large periods of this season, so I think he knew he had a good chance up against his Barcelona team.
Yeah, well, they've just won their first game under Xavi, haven't they? But I mean, we will sound off saying I hope Sergio Aguero's not too down, and he's going to have to retire, isn't he, because of a problem? And he's one of my favourite non-Everton players who's played in the Premier League. And a lot of people, it's Thierry Henry, but for me, it's Sergio Aguero, because I remember vividly his first game for City, and I remember vividly his last game for City, and everything that happened in between. He's just one of my favourite strikers I've ever seen in England, and just whatever he does with his life now. I don't know what his English is like, but I'd love for him to come back and be like a pundit or something like that, like a lot of other players. Where don't know if he's going to go into management, whether he's just going to go back to South America and live off his money, or whether he's going to stick around and kind of just be what certain footballers are, like David Beckham, where they just kind of become businessmen and become brands. But I hope we still see Sergio Aguero in football somewhere, because I think he's a cracking fella and an even better footballer.
Good stuff. Final thoughts on the game? Well,
was what it was. We are a team with so loads and loads of shit in it, and when we have to rely on that shit, we are not going to get a result against the vast majority of teams. And we were playing today the league champions, who are still one of the top 3 teams in the country. And even when they have injuries themselves, they're still one of the top three teams in the country, even without the likes of Grealish and the likes of Gabriel Jesus and the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. They're still going to finish third, at least, easily. So, yeah, I'm just thankful it wasn't more, really. And it could and should have been more, but I think after the second goal, City just decided to take the foot off the gas.
Well,
they had mercy on us, basically.
Yeah. I predicted a carbon copy of the 5-0 from last season, so strictly speaking, I'm counting that as a 2-0 win.
Yeah. I mean, it was a particular kick in the bollocks when that kid came on right at the end, McAtee or whatever his name was, and because he did a couple of step overs, the Martin Tyler and Gary Neville started like cooing on commentary, going, "Oh my goodness, look at this! They're all like little clones of David Silva." It's like, "Oh lads, come on! You're not working for Manchester City TV. Come on." That was a kick in the bollocks. Like, as if this day wasn't depressing enough. Now you're just basically rubbing it in everyone's face. Oh, look how pretty this little Man City kid is. Basically, look how much he's making a show of Everton here. I've just thought, oh my god, can the referee just blow the whistle, please?
Yeah, Mike Cuddy sums it up well. We'll finish on that. Shit team about the outcome I expected.
Yeah.
Summary of it all, really, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for dropping us all your comments during the live chat, and thanks for prolonging your Everton agony for another hour, which is, it takes some mental strength. So thanks for tuning in, and I think we all deserve to go and have a little break now and do something different with our Sunday evenings. Thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues, and we'll see you next time.